How exactly was Night City constructed, and how exactly did Night City get its name? The construction of Night City itself is a very interesting story, and how it got its name is even more wild, so just hear me out. Now, for anyone who may just be watching these videos, this is part 3 of the history of Cyberpunk 2077, more specifically Night City. I plan on covering most of, if not the entire history of most of the things that happened within this world, starting most notably with the creation and eventual story entirely of Night City. But construction of Night City actually began in 1994, and while all of Richard Knight's partners were bankrolling the project, they weren't construction companies. Richard Knight needed an actual workforce to dig up the holes, put up the steel, and build this city into what we know it as now. However, there were many mobs, such as the Mafia and the Yakuza on the West Coast, that basically had a strong hold on all of the construction in that region for decades up until this point. They even invested a large amount of money through shell corporations into the Coronado Partnership and believed that they would have the inside track on future gambling, prostitution, and drug franchises in the brand new city. However, Richard Knight knew that his company and his partners were actually able to do this completely without them, and what pissed him off even more is that he kept saying, and he had an insistence, that this city would be completely safe with no crime whatsoever. Now, for 4 years during construction, Richard Knight was actually able to keep crime completely out of the equation, and it was basically a utopia. Of course, this led to many death threats on his life and actual attempts, and eventually, despite his partners Arasaka and Petrochem getting involved and protecting him, he was eventually killed on September 20th, 1998. His killer was never caught, and the city council decided to rename the city from Coronado City to Night City in his honor. There's a lot of rich history and a lot of lore that comes to Cyberpunk, especially when it comes to Night City, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think about the construction of Night City in the comments down below, and if you aren't already, be sure you're following and subscribed on all platforms.